1 and 6, and the chords in the subdominant group 4 and 2. But it excludes, remember, the diminished supertonic of the minor key, because you cannot compose out a diminished chord. All right, so 5.8 is showing you. So what I basically said is, so thus used in isolation, the passing 6/4 mostly occurs at structural chords 1 and 4. Not so much at 6 and 2, but it does sometimes occur at 6 and 2. All right, and the 5.8 is just showing you the different melodies then, based on what I wrote here, that you can have. 1, 5, 6, 4 to tonic 6, or submediant 6 to mediant 6/4 to mediant in root position. In other words, what's happening now is that your ornamental chord in the middle has, this turns out to be the root of your ornamental chord, this turns out to be the third of your ornamental chord, and these two turn out to be the doubled fifth of your ornamental chord. And this thing is always in second inversion. That's why it's called a passing 6/4. And remember, a 6/4 triad, we're not talking quartets like a dominant 4/3 now, we're talking triads, will always have a doubled fifth. Why? Because it is performing some other kind of function. It's not supporting this chord as a structural chord. All right. So that's why in this case you can clearly see this can no longer, these chords in the middle can't be structural anymore. Dominant 6/4, and certainly not median 6/4. At the subdominant level, it would involve tonic 6/4, and then there's the supertonic. I'm jumping to example E, with a submedian 6/4 in the middle. The one exception is example D. Now, this is a rather interesting exception that composers sometimes use. It involves the subdominant, the passing 6/4 at the level of the subdominant. So I just want to write it out for you. I hope you can all see this page. Yeah. When you write a passing 6/4, remember now, according to that formula that we wrote out over there, what you should have is, oh, hang on, I'm going to put this in there. It is in the particular case of the one where you have the third to the, through a passing note to the root of the subdominant in the bass. I'm just using C major subdominant as my example now, where you go from the third to the root, which should have been subdominant 6 to subdominant root like that. And then you have the opposite, your mirror pattern, which goes from the root up a passing note to the third, and then you have the doubled root with a lower auxiliary and goes back, and then you have your anchor note, which is the fifth of your structural chord, which stands still. You always have that in an ornamental fifth progression. And in the process, what you end up with is a C, E, G, G, a tonic chord in second inversion with a doubled fifth. Okay, that's your passing 6/4 at the level of the subdominant. So what you've got now is a way in which the subdominant sometimes is interchanged with the supertonic. Why? Because they are both chords with subdominant functions. Where's your structural harmony document? Instead of a subdominant chord, you can always use a supertonic chord where it is appropriate, because they fulfill the same function, the subdominant function. So What composers sometimes do is they take that lower auxiliary melody, fa, mi, fa, and they turn it into a passing note melody as well. So everything else stays the same. Anchor note, third of the chord, passing note, root of the chord. But instead of going F, E, and back to F, what the composers sometimes do is they go F, E, and they use it as a passing note, and they come down to D, Fa, Mi, Re. So what they create in that case is a subdominant 6 and its passing 6/4, which doesn't go back to F, A, C, but in fact goes to D, F, A, C. So it's a supertonic chord, and it's in first inversion, and it has an added 7th, D, F, A, C. Added 7th in a first inversion chord is called a 6/5. Why? You know that from your study of the dominant 7th. There's the 6th created by the root of the chord, and there's the 5th created by the added 7th in the chord. So in fact you have a kind of a built-out structural sentence that also involves the supertonic chord. And that's what I'm showing you in example D. I hope you can still see example D. Instead of this one going F, E, F, it goes very beautiful. Okay, so then I'm showing you some examples of how the passing 6/4 is used. Here's a B minor example. B minor tonic 6, and then it goes to the dominant, and back to the tonic. Now notice how the melody goes. From the third through C sharp to the root. The bass goes from the root through passing note to the third. The alto, if you like, is going B, A sharp, B, and back to the same B as the soprano. And the tenor is going 5th of B, D, F sharp, stands still, becomes the anchor note, and becomes the 5th of B, D, F sharp again. So that's your passing 6/4. And then it's repeated over there with the do-ti-do melody at the top. Okay, here's an example. There's lots of other stuff happening here as well, involving the leading tone chord and a tonic 6/4 dominant, which is an appoggiatura 6/4 ornamental 4th progression, remember. But the example of the ornamental 5th is the one in the middle there, the subdominant. Example 5.22. So we have, I can't play all of this, I can't sight read well enough, but I'm just going to focus on the piano part over here so we can get an effect of it. We're in E minor and we've got this tonic chord. And there's a D sharp in the melody, there's your leading tone chord, and then we're going back to tonic 6. And then we've got the subdominant chord. Got an E minor chord in second inversion, B, E, B, E, and back to the A minor chord in first inversion. So we've got the root passing note third over there, and in the alto over there we've got the third passing note root, and then in the tenor, if you like, we've got the E, 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 which is 5th of structural chord, root of ornamental chord, 5th of structural chord. So that's your typical passing 6/4 at the level of the subdominant. Subdominant root, tonic 6/4, subdominant first inversion. Okay, let's look at another example. Here is the more rare occasion at which the ornamental fifth as a passing 6/4 occurs at secondary triad levels, and this is that very beautiful Finlandia of Sibelius. We're in A flat major, and again there's other stuff happening here too. The passing progression I want you to focus on is there, but here you can see there's an ornamental sixth happening, 1/6/1, and there we can see tonic 6/4 dominant again, very typical, cadential 6/4 or appoggiatura 6/4 ornamental fourth progression. But the passing progression is over there. He's going from chord 1, he goes to 5, then he goes to chord 2, and then he goes 5/1. Structurally, that's what he's doing. But then he composes out chord 2 with a supertonic, which goes to a passing submedian chord and then a supertonic 6. So we have from that supertonic chord, he goes, tonic 6/4, so look clearly at that. The accented supertonic, which is then got third passing note, root in the soprano, root, passing note, third in the bass. The tenor's got root, lower auxiliary root, and the alto's got fifth as anchor note. So there's your formula for the passing 6/4. The only difference is that Sibelius has chosen to, instead of keeping the submedian a minor chord F A flat C, he just wanted to be fancy and he made it an A natural to make it sound a bit nicer. So it's a major submedian chord, but other than that it's the same thing. So that's an example of a slightly more rare use of the passing 6/4 at the secondary triad levels. But most of the passing 6/4s you'll find will be at the level of either tonic or subdominant, the two primary chord levels. All right, one final example, and this is the one where the unusual thing happens that involves changing the subdominants, passing 6/4. Instead of going fa, mi, fa, it goes fa, mi, re. It's an example of that one. This is a Bach example, example 5.24. And in the process, instead of 4 in first inversion to tonic 6/4 and back to 4, he's gone from 4 to the ornamental chord and then to 2, which is an alternative structural chord for the subdominant. Okay, Bach's in E flat major, and he goes to the subdominant. Here's your subdominant 6, and so the passing 6/4 should go la, so, fa, and la, fa, so, la, and the anchor note in the middle, do, ti, do, do, and then the soprano should go fa, mi, fa. That's the low auxiliary melody. Instead, he's using that passing note melody there. So he goes, and then he goes to the dominant. So what he's created is a F, A flat, C, E flat, supertonic with an added 7th in first inversion, instead of using a subdominant in root position. Okay, I'm going to stop there and continue with ornamental fifths in the next video.